and welcome back to the podcast that must not be named. I am Luke.
I'm Melissa.
And we are finishing up Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Chapter 18.
Oh,
We made it,
yay!
Final chapter. This is Chapter 18, Dobby's Reward, which is 14 pages, and that is 4.11% of this book. Melissa, final summary. Take it away.
Harry, Ron, Ginny, and Lockhart enter Professor McGonagall's office to find not only the professor and the Weasley parents, but Dumbledore as well. Upon questioning, Harry begins to explain first how he, Hermione, and Ron had solved each piece of the puzzle, then started describing that evening's journey into the chamber, trying to avoid Ginny's involvement so she wouldn't get into trouble. Dumbledore rescues this worry by wondering how Voldemort could enchant Ginny from his current hiding places. So Harry and Ginny filled him in on the diary and how it works. As Mr. Weasley starts to get angry at her, Dumbledore steps in and declares that no punishment will be handed out because older and wiser wizards than she have been hoodwinked by Lord Voldemort. Ginny and her parents head to the infirmary. McGonagall goes to the kitchens to request an immediate feast, and Dumbledore is left to deal with Harry and Ron, who were reminded that at the beginning of the year, they were told if they did any more rule breaking, they would be expelled. Luckily, Dumbledore realizes his own mistake and, instead of expelling them, said he would award them both special awards for services to the school and 200 points each to Gryffindor. Dumbledore finally realizes that Lockhart is still there. Shocking, since he hadn't said a word yet, so very un-Lockhart of him. Ron explains about the wand misfire as Lockhart attempted a memory charm. Then Ron leads Lockhart, who says he was probably a terrible teacher, to the hospital wing, leaving Harry alone with Dumbledore. They discuss how Harry and Riddle were very similar, leading Harry to worry again about almost being put into Slytherin. But Dumbledore assures him that just by his act of choosing not to be in Slytherin, Harry proved that he was not like Riddle. With one of the most Dumbledore wall quotes of all time. It is our choices, Harry, that show us what we truly are, far more than our abilities. Dumbledore also shows Harry that the sword he used was the actual sword of Godric Gryffindor, and only a true Gryffindor could have pulled that out of the sorting hat. Dumbledore starts to send Harry off, so he can write a letter to Azkaban to release Hagrid and to place an ad for yet another new defense against the dark arts teacher. But Lucius Malfoy storms in, with Dobby following behind. Lucius is livid that Dumbledore returned, but Dumbledore explained that the other governors contacted him directly with stories of threats from Malfoy and informed Lucius that the attacks have stopped and Voldemort was again responsible due to the diary. Dobby clues Harry into a big secret, and Harry outs Mr. Malfoy. Lucius gave the diary to Ginny that day back at Flourish and Blots. Enraged, Malfoy leaves, but quickly Harry takes off his sock, shoves the diary into the sock, and forces Lucius to take the sock with the diary inside. Mr. Malfoy, in disgust, tears off the sock and throws it, demanding that Dobby come with him. But Dobby is no longer Mr. Malfoy's house elf because he caught the sock. Lucius, blaming Harry, starts to attack the boy, but Dobby steps up and blasts Malfoy and tells him not to touch Harry Potter. Dobby profusely thanks Harry and explains that he was trying to give Harry a clue who was causing all of the trouble since it was Riddle before he was Voldemort, and as Riddle he could still be named. Then Harry made it to the all-night feast where several things happened, including the petrified people were awake and thanking him. Hagrid returned. Their bonus saving the day points won the Gryffindor House Cup, and McGonagall canceled the end-of-year exams. As the year came to the close, they finished up their lessons, defense against the dark arts being canceled completely, and boarded the train home. Ginny, on the train, revealed that Percy's big secret was that he had a girlfriend who had also been petrified with Hermione.
We made it. End of book.
Yay!
We're here. All right. So even in the last chapter, we actually have a character introduction. We have a named character. We've met this character a few times, and that is Penelope Clearwater, the Ravenclaw prefect that we've seen a few times in slightly hidden places kind of throughout the book.
Right?
Random mentions here and there, but that is who that is. Percy's girlfriend.
I love that he has a girlfriend and that Ginny knew.
I don't think we had any new location introductions unless we've never been into McGonagall's office before, potentially. I don't know if we've ever
I'm
been
not
directly in
sure.
her office. I'm going to go ahead and add that on there. Listeners, write in if you disagree. I don't think we've been in Professor McGonagall's office before.
I don't believe so either. So we'll add that in. We did have a magicabulary, and that was the Muggle Protection Act.
Yep, that was Mr. Weasley's claim to governmental fame, yes.
Woo.
So we have our illustration discussion, and we see Dumbledore holding what turns out to be Godric Gryffindor's sword. What do you think of this picture?
I feel like this is a really good illustration for this chapter because this is what I like to call the JK explains all the stuff we didn't know before chapter. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's the last chapter, sometimes it's like the second to last chapter. And so it usually tends to be Harry sitting around telling a lot of people what just happened.
Right.
Which we don't even hear because we had just read about what just happened. So it's like, okay, so all this happened. Harry sat and told people about it. But this chapter, like the few things that happened that were surprising was the sword, finding out that it was an actual sword of Gryffindor. So I feel like that was a really good moment for Harry, for a reveal for him, since pretty much that was just him talking throughout most of the rest of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a cool picture. You know, it's nice to see Dumbledore smiling and real excited about the sword, and you can tell he seems to know something more about it, which I think we'll get into here shortly. But yeah, it's a good picture. I think good illustration.
Yes.
So let's get into our in-depth analysis. Melissa, kick us off. What do you think?
Well, for a short 14-page chapter, a lot happened. So I put a lot into there. Just to kind of go back to my summary, the things that stood out to me there was that it was very un-Lockhart-y of Lockhart not to be talking during all of that talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which some of I was going to say some of the highlights of the whole book have been when Lockhart has interjected his completely random and pointless thoughts.
Right.
So for him not to be talking, it really is very poignant. Like it's a very big change of character there.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really funny that, Dumbledore calls him out on that. He's like, I'm noticing you're not taking any credit for this dangerous adventure that you guys clearly just went on. What's the deal?
Right.
You okay?
I also really like that Dumbledore sends Harry off so he can write an ad for another new defense against the dark arts teacher.
That was pretty funny, for sure.
Dumbledore had some funny moments, like little itty bitty things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was funny. It's like we seem to be going through them rather quickly lately. The defense against the dark arts teachers, that is.
Yeah. However, there is one thing Dumbledore did that I question slightly.
Okay.
200 points each. I mean, I totally get that they saved Ginny, although really all Ron did was have a broken wand to save themselves from.
That's why he's been holding on to it all year long.
You never know when a broken wand can come in handy.
He's had
but that's really all
in his mind.
He did. So him getting 200 points for that seems a little excessive.
I agree.
And Harry did kill the snake that nobody believed existed and find the chamber that nobody believed existed and saved the girl and the diary that nobody knew existed. And I get that. They were all big things. But last year he defeated Voldemort and only got 60 points.
Right.
So I guess I get that what they did was very awesome. I'm not saying that Ginny saving and monster slaying and diary killing is not a very cool thing to do, but should it really translate into their house winning? Especially because from my standpoint as a teacher, the house points is basically a way to manage school behavior. So isn't it a way to honor the house that has done the best when it comes to schooling? And yet here we are giving 400 points to people who did very important things, but technically it was just rule breaking.
Yeah, this one feels a little bit worse than last book. It's a little too much. I don't know. I agree that the House Cup shouldn't necessarily just go to Harry Potter because it's Harry Potter and he saves the day. Like, I don't know if that really is fair. Like, I mean, save the school, like, cool. You also just got a special award medal from this, for it as well. So
Right.
it's not like they're not getting, commended and
They got a feast.
right. I mean, so
They got the exams canceled.
and we already seen that it's the same special services to the school that Tom Riddle had. So it clearly those things stay around in the trophy room for ever, 50 years at least.
Right.
So it's not like it's going to go noticed or anything. So like I don't see why the two of them deserve the House Cup alone.
Well, and even last year,
last year, like the overall point totals were like just around 400 and 500. I mean, like
right,
it was like maybe 600. Like it was.
So, like the fact that they got 400 points, Gryffindor could have literally done nothing between Quidditch and this, and still won.
Yeah, Harry single-handedly wins it.
Pretty much, and it makes me really frustrated even how they were awarded it, because last year it was 60 points to Harry for sheer bravery. I can talk. Yeah. And then
that's
50
what we do
points
on podcasts.
I'm just putting my thumb up. I got no words tonight. And Hermione got 50 points for a cool head in the face of logic. And Ron got 50 points for playing a game of chess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. And even Neville got 10 points or 60 points. I don't know, some
10.
number of points. 10. See, I know things. 10 points just for standing up to his friends for doing something that was right. There were reasons, not just, oh, cool stuff. You should be expelled because I told you if you broke your rules again, you'd be expelled. But instead, 200 points each.
Yeah, it's a little much, I think.
There's not even a good reason. I mean, there's a good reason, but
I don't think it's an individual.
It's not even justified.
Trophy, and that's the big problem with it. It's not an individualistic, trophy. It's supposed to be a whole house recognition, where this is, hey, let's just give even more credit to the guy who's on the titular character, as it were.
Yeah, it's just frustrating. I mean, I get it, and I'm totally cool with Gryffindor winning on merit, but I don't feel like this was on merit.
Yeah, this was just like, well, this is what happens at the end of the book. We have to make sure that they win, no matter what it is. That's just what has to happen.
Right. Or like, they could get some points for it.
Sure.
But when they beat the troll, they each only got, 5 points?
Right, yep.
And they knocked out a freaking troll.
I think it should have been the same number of points they got last year, if anything. Like
get 50 each.
50
Although
or
really,
60 again.
Ron should have even gotten 50 because it wasn't.
I agree. But I feel like the level of what happened was, sure, it's on par with what he did last year. Why is this one so much special?
Right. I agree. It was not worth 200.
Agreed.
Excuse me. Okay. My next thought. I love that Dobby protecting Harry finally from Lucius. First of all, he actually protected Harry in a good way.
Right.
Not his random, hey, I'm going to knock your arm off so you go home kind of thing, but like actually protecting Harry. But the line, you will not touch Harry Potter. It just, there's the redeeming Dobby quality right there.
Yeah.
That's where you fall in love with him.
Yeah, it's nice he's finally gotten his chance to shine, and not just be an obstacle or be a negative influence on Harry's life. Even like regardless of intention, like he did not help anything, unfortunately.
No, until that moment.
Right.
It does bring me to my next point. I am very annoyed about Dobby's clue about, well, it's not he who must not be named. Is really like that clue about it being Riddle, because we are able to name Riddle. It was very convoluted to me. It was very confusing. The first time I read it, I still always have to reread it. Like, okay, now what is he saying here?
It's kind of weak. I'm not too impressed by this. It's just kind of like, that's not a clue to anyone. Like that, what?
None.
Like, oh, it's not Hitler. It's young Hitler. Like, no, like, what are you talking? Like,
right.
No, it's not a clue. You're basically just not helping. Like,
right. It's not Voldemort. It's who he was before he was Voldemort. Yes. But he didn't even say that. That would have at least had some, like,
that would have been a good line. Before Voldemort. Oh, boy. Another new character introduction.
All right, Luke, what'd you have?
I had plenty. I had a lot of thoughts this chapter. Mr. Weasley's line of, What have I always told you? Never trust anything that can think for itself if you can't see where it keeps its brain. Like, he always says this. This is like an old adage that he's, just like constantly tells his children while they're growing up.
Sure.
Hey, don't trust anything if you don't know where it keeps its brain. Like, when does that? And I guess maybe in the magical world, maybe that is kind of maybe a common thought, like a common thing you teach kids when you're reading magical ghost stories or, like the tales, whatever they tell little kids.
Well, wasn't Ron the one who said, like, oh, there's books that when you open them, you can't stop reading them ever?
Right, yeah.
So maybe he does. Ron's the one who knew that, and Ron does know random things, more often than not. So maybe it is something he has told his kids before.
It just seems like a really random, thing to say. Like, he just, brings this up in this discussion, being like, I've always told you this. Like, I don't know. It just seems weird the first time reading it.
Maybe, and I can agree with that. But as a parent, there are times where I've said things to my kids. Not that I say them all the time, but I probably told them 2 or 3 times, and then they go and they do the thing I tell them not to. Haven't I told you you're not supposed to steal my food out of the pantry or whatever it is they're doing? Might have happened tonight. Just saying. But I maybe don't say it all the time, but it's definitely something that they've been told.
Sure. I just think it's funny that it's like a real specific thing that he says. I've always told you never to trust this exact instance of what we ran into. Like that's the funny part to me.
Oh, see, I always thought it was really profound. I'm like, ooh, that's a really good idea. And I apply it a lot now.
I don't know. Like it seems like you're gonna be pretty limited. You've seen a lot of things that I mean, I don't know, maybe not. It just seems.
Yeah, but it's talking back to them. So I don't know. Like, I think it applies a lot now with social media. So I'm fine with it. I've never had a problem with that line. Okay. I've always really liked it. Maybe
I mean, overall I like it. I think it could just be taken out of context and be really silly.
Oh, maybe.
And maybe that's the line that I'm taking on it.
Okay.
So my next thought is when Dumbledore kind of jumps in to kind of let Ginny off the hook, and he basically says, because instinctively Harry looked at Dumbledore, who smiled faintly, the firelight glancing off his half-moon spectacles. This is when Harry's worried about her getting in trouble, because he hadn't mentioned her up till this point. What interests me most, said Dumbledore gently, is how Lord Voldemort managed to enchant Ginny when my sources tell me he is currently hiding in the forests of Albania. Relief, warm, sweeping, glorious relief swept over Harry. Like, it's just funny. Okay. It's like another one of those Dumbledore... sometimes seeming like he has way too much information, but this one doesn't feel like too overpowered from him. It's just him kind of realizing there's more to this story because she's been involved. Clearly, she was down there. How did she get down? I think he's made some really good logical jumps to be like, I can tell Harry might be avoiding this because he just went on a 15-minute discussion of everything he's done all year tracking this thing, which is another funny thing to visualize Harry just standing up giving this 15-minute diatribe about basically, it takes Jim Dale, 8 hours to read through this story.
And Harry can get through it in 15 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe he's a little less colorful in his language, but
he's less wordy.
Yeah. But I think that whole scene is nice. One, Harry actually giving a chance to, not throw her under the bus because she already feels guilty so much, which we saw last chapter, he was worried about mentioning that in front of Ron, and it's nice that Dumbledore is there to kind of help him help her. And I also thought it was really funny that Dumbledore trolled Ron and Harry about expelling them. He has the whole line. It's another one of those kind of teacher jokes like we saw last book. And it says, I seem to remember telling you both that I would have to expel you if you broke any more school rules, said Dumbledore. Ron opened his mouth in horror. Which goes to show that the best of us must sometimes eat our words, Dumbledore went on smiling. And then he gives them the special awards from the school and 10,000 points and 100 million points to Gryffindor.
Gryffindor wins permanently.
Perpetual trophies. But it's funny seeing Dumbledore have this much color again. He does his high philosophical stuff, but he also quickly reverts back to his silly, quick-wittedness, and he really cuts through tension in really complicated situations well. And it's nice to see that he's still doing that here. So then we learn that a part of Voldemort being in Harry is what the. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh, what's your face? No,
it's my face.
he looks so confused about something.
I'm not sure where in the book it said a part of Voldemort being in Harry.
Pull it up.
Yeah, do.
Okay, so the line, the passage that I will quote from the Book of Harry. So this is when he mentions that the Sorting Hat told me I'd have done well in Slytherin. Everyone thought I was the Slytherin's heir for a while because I can speak Parseltongue. You can speak Parseltongue, Harry, said Dumbledore calmly, because Lord Voldemort, who is the last remaining descendant of Salazar Slytherin, can speak Parseltongue. Unless I'm much mistaken, he transferred some of his own powers to you that night, to you the night he gave you that scar. Not something he intended to do, I'm sure. Voldemort put a bit of himself in me? Harry said, thunderstruck. It certainly seems so. So then this kind of goes along with my next several notes, kind of all going together. So I'll keep reading. So I should be in Slytherin, Harry said, looking desperately into Dumbledore's face. The Sorting Hat could see Slytherin's power in me, and it put you in Gryffindor, said Dumbledore calmly. Listen to me, Harry. You happen to have many qualities Salazar Slytherin prized in his hand-picked students. His very own rare gift, Parseltongue, resourcefulness, determination, and a certain disregard for rules.
Well,
so to me, it seems like he's clearly saying that there's a part or some kind of power transfer from Voldemort to Harry, which I read that as the Sorting Hat seeing the transferred portion. Maybe not all of it, because I think Harry does have resourcefulness. It's kind of one of those. He might have some of the traits, but the really telling ones are the ones that are transferred over, and that's what the Sorting Hat sees. That's how I read it, at least.
Okay.
And I really like that, Harry does get credit for his resourcefulness and determination and his disregard for rules. Those are characteristics that he does naturally have, I think. Clearly, he uses those in very brave ways as opposed to more just ambitious ways, which I think is a big difference between Harry as a Gryffindor and Harry as a Slytherin.
Yes.
Specifically that character, not all Gryffindors versus Slytherins and things like that. But it's just nice to see that Dumbledore kind of has learned who Harry is a bit. He's not just this master of puppets. He's actually trying to learn Harry's character.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts on that whole discussion that they had?
I like that Dumbledore kind of alleviates Harry's worry about it. I think if Harry had talked to somebody earlier in the book, he wouldn't have worried about it so long. Yeah. But I've said that before. So
I think it's almost the same conversation that the Sorting Hat was trying to have with Harry when he was in Dumbledore's office. He was basically saying, right, you would have done well in Slytherin. And then he took the hat off. He didn't let him finish this entire thing that Dumbledore just talked about. Like, you have the traits. It doesn't mean you're defined by them. And that gets into the whole, it really is your choices that define who you are, not necessarily your abilities, which exactly. I think we'll probably come back to. But my next thought is Malfoy, Mr. Malfoy, threatening the other school governors. Are none of them, like, skilled witches or wizards? Like, so much so that they were so easily intimidated? Like, there's clearly 11 of them and one of him. Like, what's the power dynamic here?
He has money.
Sure, but I mean, I would think between the 11 other ones, they would figure out that, hey, we're all being threatened.
Or, I don't know. He has money. He's an old school family. I just wonder how much is like him being, I don't even know how to describe it. Like him using all of that power and influence to coerce them. Mm-hmm. Yes. And it's not until they all get together that it becomes something they can combat. But they maybe didn't know they could get together. And it took all of them because he is just that pushy.
And maybe he was, sly enough on getting them all one-on-one and threatening them that way that they didn't realize, maybe they thought that they were the odd man out, not seeing the issues that he was trying to get Dumbledore out. And I could see it. It gives him a little more, not necessarily prestige, but credit to his corruption abilities. There we go.
There you go.
And corruptive abilities.
Jeez. Yes.
So then, Malfoy is in the room, and Harry has the line, "Don't you want to know how Ginny got a hold of that diary, Mr. Malfoy?" And then he goes on to, kind of say, Lucius Malfoy rounded on him. "How should I know how the stupid little girl got a hold of it?" he said. "Because you gave it to her," said Harry. "In Flourish of Blots, you picked up her old Transfiguration book and slipped the diary inside, didn't you?" He saw Mr. Malfoy's white hands clench and unclench. "Prove it," he hissed. "Oh, no one will be able to do that," said Dumbledore, smiling at Harry. It's just a funny lead-in that Harry does. "Hey, don't you want to know how she got the diary?" Basically, giving him the chance to admit it,
Own it.
I guess.
Yeah.
And it's just a funny way to be instead of just coming out straight and accusing him and saying, "I know it was you," he gives him a chance. It's
that last chance.
Right.
Yep.
It's just funny. He plays such a I don't know, an Eddie Haskell kind of thing. Is what? "Oh, Mrs. Cleaver, did you know what the kids were doing?" It's a real suck up way of trying to trick him into telling him. I don't know. It just seems funny to me. Just imagining Harry say this.
I think it sounds like what I do as a teacher and a parent. "Oh, did anybody see my scissors? That's interesting." Or, "Hey, did you guys know I had a package of cookies in my desk? When I was out with the sub?"
So passive aggressive.
They are all gone.
It drives me nuts. It's
How
so
do you think that could happen? Oh, it's great. It's been weeks and I still bring it up every once in a while. I could really use a cookie now. So sad. But sometimes the passive aggressive way is a smarter way to go because it's not so in your face accusatory that somebody can, because you can't defend against passive aggressive.
Sure you can. You say, "Stop being passive aggressive."
Not if you're wrong.
Just tell me what you're looking for.
Yes, but not everybody likes to get it blunt like you do.
Aggressive. Just tell me. Let's cut through this red tape. I don't have time for it. I'm too busy editing podcasts. I don't have time for this.
Most people are not you.
So, fans, if you're right again, don't beat around the bush. Tell us if you like us.
And if you don't like us, just don't say anything.
Or just passively aggressive, tweet at Melissa. Because she loves that, apparently.
No, I don't love it. I'm just really good at it. See, it's different. I can't take it. But it's what mom would say, right? I can dish it out, but I can't take it.
Fair enough.
I hear that a lot from her. It's great. Thanks, Mom.
Let's talk about Dobby's sock. What do you think of? And we've talked about this a bit in our unrestricted sections. So first time readers, you would have missed this. But the way the house elf freedom happens, I find troubling. And you can try to justify it and spin it in so many ways. But I think that a house elf that doesn't do laundry, I don't have much time for. To me, that's the number one thing I want them to do. I don't know. It seems loose.
I definitely would like them to do laundry.
I'm not saying it's the only thing. That'd be very high on my list of things that I'd be looking for.
I'm looking for bathrooms, dishes. My point is, if that was the only thing they couldn't do, and they cooked for me and they cleaned for me and they did my dishes and they packed my lunches, I could get over the laundry thing.
I guess I could too.
But I guess my thing is what else? I like that there's a loophole.
I don't it seems so silly. You can't he accidentally hands him a sock and that's freedom. That seems ridiculous.
I think house elf enslavement is ridiculous. So
I'm all for freeing the house slaves in general. It just seems like intent should have to be included. I mean, I don't know. The whole enslavement thing with it being magically bound or however that works is maybe part of the real problematic thing. I don't know. Clearly, Dobby's has some super incredibly powerful magic.
Right.
And even this enslavement, this magical bond or binding, I think is maybe a better word, that Dobby has to the family, maybe that prevents him from using that magic until he's freed, I guess, in certain aspects. But I don't know. The accidentally handing him a sock and that's freedom loophole. I like the outcome. I'm all for it. Yeah, free Dobby. Dobby's free. But it seems a little weak.
I'm okay with it. I like the idea that there's a loophole. I think there should be a loophole because otherwise then you would just have house elves enslaved forever with absolutely no hope. I think,
Well, then why don't they just go
what
to the
is
laundry and take something? It's like the same thing.
you have to be handed
See, and
it.
that's the thing. It's like to me, if that's the case, it should have to have intent with it. It can't be an accidentally you threw it to the side and just hit him in the face.
Okay, so I'm going to quote you something from, I think it's just from the movie version, not necessarily from the book version, but it's from Hunger Games.
Okay.
Have you seen Hunger Games?
Yes, I've
Okay.
read all the books.
Okay, the books are amazing. But in the first movie, President Snow is discussing with the head gamekeeper why they have the games. And I'm almost positive this is not in the books at all. It's just a movie thing because we don't see any of this in the books. And he says, "Do you know why we have the games?" And he's like, because they're tributes and they have to pay for it. And President Snow's like, no. We do it because I could take, 12 boys and 12 girls from each and routinely execute them. And that would teach them the same thing. So he says we do it for hope. We take 24 tributes to basically punish them for the uprising 75 years ago. I could take 24 kids and execute them on TV, and that would be it. But there would be no investment in it. By having a winner, then that gives them hope. It gives them the idea that we could survive. There's a possibility of winning. I could get my kid back. And so it gets them invested. There's still 23 dead kids. There's still 23 brutal murders that we have to watch on TV. But the fact that there's one winner gives them that hope that it could happen. And I think that might be part of it too. And granted, it seems like Dobby in particular is a house elf who does not want to be with his family. So maybe for him, it's that, maybe it's that I have this hope that I can someday get out. That's the loophole. And maybe other elves don't care that much, but for Dobby, or for any elf like Dobby, I want out. This is my way. And so I'm going to find any opportunity I can. My guess would be if a house elf didn't want to, it just wouldn't be a thing. He'd let the sock drop because I know the loophole, so I'm not going to follow it. I'm not going to get that.
It almost seems like he didn't have a choice. Like, even if he just like tries to avoid having it hit him in the face and accidentally catching it. Like, I don't know, but
right.
It seems like even if he would have accidentally caught it and he wanted to stay, he would still be free regardless, even if he wanted to keep that magical bond or bond.
Okay, so in my head, he actively sought out catching the flying sock.
I don't know. It doesn't really say. It doesn't.
It doesn't. I just always imagine
he threw the sock aside and Dobby ends up with it.
Yes.
I don't feel like
my other thought would be if he was really dedicated to his family, he would just stay, even if he was free, like by choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. That's my thought.
No, that's fine. Let's move on to my next note. I only have a couple more. I love that it was everyone in their pajamas at the feast. Harry kind of describes how it was like a feast like none other. That he's been to a lot of them, a lot of Hogwarts feasts, but nothing like the one that they had this night. Everyone in their pajamas, and then everyone cheers when they hear the news that Lockhart's leaving. And Ron says, "Shame, he was really starting to grow on me." It was funny because I think they bonded a little bit down in that rock tunnel.
Especially new and improved Lockhart.
Right, absolutely. But, I mean, they clearly had some time to hang out, so.
Right. It's great.
And then, one of the final lines of this chapter is basically Hermione asking, won't the Dursleys, be impressed or, excited to have you back after what you've gone through? And Harry says, with all the times I could have died and I didn't manage it, they'll be furious. And then they walk back into the Muggle world. But it's just funny. Again, real similar to the end of last book. And I like this still. Like, it's done well again, that, everything that he does here, it doesn't matter once he walks back through, off the platform of 9 3/4, whatever that looks like. He goes back out and he's not necessarily on his own again, but he's not the famous Harry Potter once he passes that gate, at least for those that he's forced to be around. It's a good humbling thing for our famous hero.
I will comment on this later.
Okay. So with that, I think you have 5 questions and they might be burning.
A little bit. I've been waiting for him.
All right, let's get into it.
First question. How could the system of house points be adjusted to become a more accurate representation of the behavior of the overall school instead of a way to glorify the actions of a few? It was a wordy teacher question.
Yeah. I mean, I think there could maybe be a maximum number of points that you can award at one time. Maybe that's one thing you can do. I don't know, like putting a cap on it, regulating it a little bit could help. It could also stifle things. But I mean, say the max is 50 points. Like that's huge. Like, but 200-point jump is it's too much.
Well, and I wonder if because we haven't seen a lot of points being awarded in class, but sometimes it's like, oh, you get 2 points for this. Oh, you get 5 points for this. Wait, they got only 5 points for defeating a troll, and that they're getting like 2 or 3 points in a class.
It's very, at the same time. There's a lot of incongruity between the point awards.
I feel like it needs to be like something good in class. You can award anywhere between 1 and 5 points. If they do something above and beyond, like the normal school day that benefits the well-being of others, then you should award anywhere from 15 to 30 points, something. However,
so they need some teacher workshops on the actual use and awarding of the.
Let me go again with the quality of education at Hogwarts is sketchy and spotty at best.
Yeah, it's definitely questionable.
Right.
We love you, Dumbledore.
I'm not saying I wouldn't want to
go.
I'd still want to go to school there.
Absolutely.
But there's no. I'm a systematic teacher. I teach things in a systematic way. Whenever there's struggles, in my building or whatever, I'm always in the group trying to find a systematic way to solve it more than just trying to figure out one at a time. It's like, how do we fix the overall so that it doesn't
don't fix the symptoms, fix the problem.
Right. So this is very hard for me.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
Looking at it from a teacher lens, I'm having a hard time.
Looking at it from an engineer's perspective, it's frustrating as well. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Question 2. Dobby, you just won your freedom. What are you going to do next?
Will I go find a job that I don't have to beat myself over the head anytime I do something outside of that? No, I don't know. Maybe go travel a bit.
I'm going to Disneyland.
Yeah, maybe. UK Disney.
There's no UK Disney.
In the magical world, there could be.
Are there magical theme parks?
See, this is my question. Why aren't there? There could be.
There you go.
Right.
A magical theme park. Sorry, I got sidetracked. That's very exciting.
So listeners, we expect your fan art of these magical roller coasters and attractions.
Yes.
And we will put them together in a collage and put them on the website.
Yep. Okay. Question 3. Should end-of-year exams be held?
The way McGonagall, described them even before the chamber was open the last time where Ginny went in. I mean, she talked about this. Like, the whole reason we're keeping the school open is to see what to have you still learn. And then Dumbledore's back and he just says, well, that doesn't matter. We're not going to do that. I think they should. Maybe this is a place where Ron and Harry get out of them. Like that, I think I'd maybe be okay with.
Instead of 200 points each.
Right. I think I'd sign off on that quicker than the 200 points. It's just...
I just think about it in terms of schooling. We're not talking about first and second graders. We're talking about basically middle and high schoolers. I know, when we were in high school, maybe not middle school, but high school, there was definitely certain tests we had to take in order to progress to college or whatever.
Right.
Are these the exams being canceled? Can they opt in? Okay, you canceled them, but I really need this, so can I take it anyway?
We heard mentions of the OWLs earlier.
Right.
When, they were trying to figure out why Tom Riddle got a special award or whatever. They were talking about him. It's like, I wonder if he got 13 OWLs, and I wonder if that's one of those maybe standardized tests, just standard things that every student has to do. We don't know much about them, but
right. So
sounds like that's something that probably should have to happen no matter when.
That's my point.
Or maybe they happened a couple weeks ago. It's possible.
Which, fine, but can we make sure they did, please? It worries me. That's all.
I agree.
I'm just saying. All right. Question 4. Do you agree with Dumbledore's phrase, "It is our choices, Harry, that show us what we truly are, far more than our abilities"? Why or why not?
I think so. I believe that you kind of write your own story. In general, I don't think things are impossible. I think with the amount of work that you choose to put in on something, you can get almost anything done. I mean, sure, there are some, advantages, kind of head starts that you can get by using abilities that you have in those things. But, even if I'm not naturally gifted as a swimmer, say, but I put the work in, I can still compete. I can still put myself in the game, and
Right.
I think people, knowing that would qualify me as a swimmer, even though it's not something I'm naturally able or talented in. Like I would still be able to do it, and I think that applies to a lot of different things. It really is. I think it's your choices that define who you are. We're built of the decisions that we make. Your
Okay.
abilities are what you use to make those things happen.
Okay.
I think they go hand in hand, but what do you think?
All right. I think there are certain like personality traits that make people more inclined to go certain directions. Not so much in school, like elementary school with your basic subjects, because
Hmm.
I like one of my biggest things that I combat every day with students and parents and other teachers is there's no such thing as I'm not a math person.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody can be a math person. It's all about your background knowledge and your experiences and your ability to practice. And, we have,
And how your family
people,
talks about math, like, oh, your dad comes home from work and you're doing math
right.
homework, and this is
Or,
this is not like a specific example to us. It's just I think it's a real
right.
common thing. It's like, oh, well, I was bad at math, so then the kid hears that and they think, well, my dad was bad at math, so I'll probably bad at
Yes.
math, which is
Yes.
wrong.
Whereas if you sit around my kitchen table and I ask my kids about how your day was and they tell me about math class because they think, oh, my mom likes math. My daughter has even said to me, like, oh, I'm good at math because my mommy's good at math. No, you're not, honey. You're good at math because you
We're
can
we're
mentally
a
multiply numbers in your brain and
and
we
we're a
talk about
a
strategies
math
and
positive, atmosphere. It goes a long
right.
way.
Has nothing to do with the fact that anybody is good or not good. It's math is considered like something fun in my house.
Hmm.
And in my classroom, same
And
thing.
so
Like,
you
yeah,
guys have made the choice to be math positive, and I think that is I think regardless of any of your children, their
right.
ability in math, it's choosing
However,
to try.
however, I will say, like, I definitely think there's a reason why I am a teacher and not like a delivery person or a salesperson because I don't have the personality and the outgoing personality traits to sit and talk to people all day long like our brother Matthew does. I am barely 5 foot tall. So professional basketball player is never going to be an option for me. You know what I mean? Like, so I could do a lot of things, but there are things about my person, my abilities that make certain things not out of reach, except for
I
basketball,
I
because
mean,
that's out of reach,
that's
but
quite
definitely
literally
make
out
it
of reach.
right, literally. Um, but make it a lot less likely.
Sure. I mean, you use your natural abilities. I'm gonna call them strengths,
Hmm.
to varying degrees to find the outcomes that you decide to go after. And some personality traits try to go on work on things that they know that they're not naturally good on. I think it's just depends on how you choose to spend your time and your talents, to
But
actually
I will never be a
apply those.
basketball player. First of all, because I can't catch a ball or throw a ball, and I'm half the size of the really
That
like
is not a
basketball
very
player.
basketball positive mentality you're taking. But you
I
also just
know.
don't care to
No,
do it.
because
That's what I'm saying. Like you don't have the
right.
drive, so you're not interested in trying.
Also true. I am not
That's the
interested in
point that
trying.
I'm getting at. If you're interested in it, regardless of your ability level, if it's something that you choose to go after, I believe people can make choices and
And
improve their
be
own abilities in those
yes,
things.
that doesn't mean be the best, but
Right.
can
You can,
right.
like I said, you can become competitive or get in
Okay.
the game.
I will give you that. All right. Here's my last question. If the exams were canceled, should they really still be going to class?
Were they? I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Where does it say that?
So the exams were canceled, but they still went to class. Why bother?
The rest of
Because remember,
the rest of the final term passed in a haze of blazing sunshine. Hogwarts was back to normal with only a few small differences. Defense against the Dark Arts classes were canceled, but we've had plenty of practice at that anyway, Ron told a disgruntled Hermione, and Lucius Malfoy had been sacked as a governor. So it just says that only Defense Against the Dark Arts classes were canceled, so we assume that the rest of them still continue to happen. Gotcha.
right. But exams are canceled. Like, if they're going to bother canceling the exams, why are they
Why?
even still
Yeah, I mean,
going?
clearly they've given up on the school year, so
Right.
what's the point?
Just cancel
I'm
everything.
sure Snape still had in-class exam, like final tests. Maybe not
I would.
full-on exam week, but
I would. I would
a,
do it.
a responsible teacher should. That's why they're there. I mean,
Mhm.
that's why they
It doesn't
pay
have to be a
infinite
giant, like,
dollars.
90. It's not like it has to be a giant 90 question test, but a good 3 or 4 question formative assessment at the end of the unit, I'm totally okay with.
Make it easy. Like, that's fine. It doesn't have
Right.
to be difficult, but
Doesn't have to be 25 questions on one skill.
right.
2 or 3. I'm good.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree. So, with that, let's get into our chapter superlatives. Melissa, what's your favorite line?
Proud, said Harry. Are you crazy? All those times I could have died and I didn't manage it? They'll be furious.
There's a reason that one got in here twice. That's a great line.
It is a great line and you totally stole my thunder, but yep, it's a great line for all the reasons you said and it's funny.
Yeah, it is definitely fun.
Yep, it's a good one. Yours?
So mine is, but one of us seems to be keeping mightily quiet about his part in this dangerous adventure, Dumbledore added. Why so modest, Gilderoy? And then Harry realizes that, we haven't heard from him at all. You know, he just totally forgets that Lockhart's there, and he goes, Am I a professor? Said Lockhart in mild surprise. Goodness, I expect I was hopeless, was I? Yeah, basically.
You were.
Nailed
You were
it.
terrible. Absolutely
And
terrible,
so-
which is why I like this Lockhart better.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
He's actually could probably be a decent teacher at this point. You never know.
Except he doesn't know anything.
We don't know that. We just know that he doesn't know that he was a teacher.
I don't know. Like, he sure
I
seems
think he's a
kind of
little.
clueless.
I think he's a little gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
who was your chapter MVP?
I gotta go with Dobby. Like, the way he defended Harry to Lucius Malfoy without actually hurting Harry was pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely. You know, he basically does this huge disarming spell or some magical force with
Right.
no wand or anything. So, pretty impressive.
Yeah. And Lucius listens, which is even more impressive.
See, that almost seemed like there was some magic that he used right there too, where I don't know, like there was nothing that Malfoy could do. Almost, I don't know. It just seemed like there was more than just intimidation being involved with that.
I agree.
But I don't know what it was. So
Me neither.
my honorable mention is going to go to Albus Dumbledore. He's funny. He was sincere. He gave Harry a lot of good information. You know, he really helped out Ginny. You know, getting her to feel okay with where things went. He leveled with Harry this book. He actually gave him a lot more information than he did last book, which I remember frustrated you a lot. You know, because he gave the you're too young type answer. Like, I'm not going to tell you. I feel like he gave him some legitimate good information about his own history with Voldemort and with Tom Riddle, and he knows that Harry was struggling with this perception that he has of himself, and he helps him sort through that, and I really liked what he did this chapter.
Okay. So it looks like that wraps it up.
Yeah, book 2 in the books.
We have where's my
Smarmy.
No.
Smarmy host
No.
one final time.
Where's my wand to backfire on you? All right, people, make them stop. I'm gonna need some help because this is just ridiculous over here. I'm gonna move on, and I'm gonna tell you that you are welcome to give your direct insults and no beating around the bush kinds of things. Write to Luke to tell him how much you hate the smarmy Lockhart voice. You can tweet at us at Not Named Podcast. You can send him emails telling him directly how much he should stop doing that to the podcast that must not be named at gmail.com. You can leave a comment on our website, thepodcastthat.com, right underneath this episode, telling him blatantly to stop doing it because he likes direct instruction.
You can take all of those thoughts and make sure you subscribe and rate us on iTunes 5 stars for everybody that loves the smarmy host. Leave your comments there and tell your friends because they are wonderful like you are.
Join us in 2 weeks when we come back with our end of book spectacular, where we are joined by a cast of characters, also known as our siblings, such as Abby, our Quidditch correspondent, Benji, our end of book breadcrumbs guy, Riley, our first time reader. Joining us for our end of book spectacular. The week after that, Luke and I will open up the giant unrestricted section on the entire book, along with any of your feedback that you have. So go ahead and send us your thoughts and comments on our Google phone number, which we will send at you shortly.
After that, also stay tuned for our movie recap as well, where first-time reader and avid movie watcher Riley will join us again for that. Stay imaginary.
Thanks.
And then Bill throws the photo album across the room and goes and it starts bleeding. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, just saying, watch out for this clown.
Sometimes there's not a deeper meaning.
Yeah,
I kind of mentioned that in my...
So I really like that it starts off just like the Ben chapter before. It starts off with old Bill, and he's flying at Barrier, and Barrier is rushing at him. And Bill finally realizes where the ideas for his books come from. We knew all of them, but watching it dawn on him...
I'm emotionally attacked by this line. The "Stop, Daddy, I'm sorry, I love you." Yeah, teared up right now.
I can only imagine how scary that is. Getting news you just got and then it starting to come back. Something you worked your entire life to slow down and do, but now here it comes again.
I would say that I think he has a death wish, but it's less of a death wish and more of a forgetting wish. Like, if he can go fast enough, he can feel better and this will all go.
Something bad's coming, and if she follows him, she's gonna be in danger.
The podcast that floats down here.
January 12th. Subscribe now.